Good morning everybody, how are we all? Welcome back into my live lockdown kitchen. Sorry that we're all in another lockdown, but definitely not sorry to have you all back with me on a Saturday morning to cook, create, bake, whatever we get up to. I wondered at the start of this, how do I start back into lockdown? What sort of recipe do I want to do with you all? And I figured that we all needed a little bit of comfort food today, just to get us into the lockdown nice and gradually, and gave a little thought, looked at my recipe book and picked my version of a brownie. And I hope that means that today we're just gently going into it. As we go through this lockdown, I'm going to get a bit more creative with you all, stretch you all a bit more. I might even add some very random ingredients into my bakes, but I'm going to convert you all into better, healthier cooks and runners. Okay, welcome. I can see you all coming in. Thank you so much for joining me. The very first thing we're going to do, guys, those of you who are cooking with me this morning, is make sure our ovens are on. So we're cooking quite low today, baking. It's a 325 Fahrenheit oven, 180 in Celsius and gas mark 4. Let's put our ovens on. Okay, that gives them an opportunity to warm up. Those of you who are cooking with me, as always, not too many ingredients. We're going to start off with our weighing in of our dry ingredients. So as you know with me, get everything together, sieve onto your bowl, straight onto your scales, and let's get weighing. Now the flour, we've got some options. I've put them on the recipe card. We're using plain flour in this recipe. If you're cooking this as a pre-run snack, pre-exercise snack, you can go with simple plain flour. And the reason we do that is it's the one time in our diet, in our day, where I'm happy for you to have a refined carbohydrate. For the rest of the time, so if you're having this as a post-recovery or earlier than that before a run, try and use an unrefined flour. You will not notice the difference. The benefits are you get your fibre because we're using the bran from the flour, you get additional essential benefits of it that we'll go through in a minute now. So those are your options. I'm going to be working with wholemeal flour, but I might actually mix it up and do half and half because I've got some coconut flour here. The nut flours available most commonly in the supermarkets are coconut flour and almond flour or ground almond, and they can be used basically just as a replication for plain flour. You can mix half and half, so if you don't like the flavour of almond, obviously please don't use that because it is quite almondy. Coconut flour, you can't really taste the coconut. Nut flours are great if you're celiac or if you're on plant-based, so consider that. They're a little bit more pricey, so you might want to just do half and half, but they are so much better for you. We know by now that complex carbohydrates such as unrefined flours keep our blood glucose levels more steady, so we're not going to get any of the spikes. Okay, right, so I'll go half and half today. It's 200 grams of flour, or if you're using your protein powder, this is where you'll add your protein powder as well, but you reduce the amount. So I've said on this 50 grams of protein powder if you're using it. I won't go, and I would recommend with protein powder, never use more than a quarter of the flour. And the reason for that is the texture. Protein powder is obviously great for you guys, but it will affect the texture of your bake. So if you go more than around a quarter of the flour amount, it's going to get more rubbery, which nobody wants, even in a brownie. So that's my advice. So let's get going. 200 grams of your flour straight into your sieve. So I'm doing 100 of that one and 100 of my coconut. Okay. And then to that, we're going to put in our cocoa. So I think it's 50 grams of cocoa. Again, if you're not a fan of chocolate, you can just add either some ground almond there, or you can just increase the flour amounts. Okay, so I love chocolate, so I am definitely adding this. So up to 250, and then it's 1 tablespoon of baking powder, and that is just a raising agent, just to help it rise a little bit when it's cooking. So dead simple, we're just going to give that a quick sieve through. Did I say tablespoon then? Teaspoon. Thank you. It's the little one on your measuring things, just a teaspoon. Unless you want it to really rise, in which case it's a tablespoon, but you don't. Okay, so we're sieving that through, and then after we've done that, we're moving on to melting our butter. So what I would recommend when you're doing your butter, try and cut it into even amounts, and the smaller the size of your butter, the more that you, the less time it will take to melt through. So again, saucepan, butter. Straight into your saucepan, and we're going to melt that over a medium heat. So let me just pop that on to a medium heat, just to melt through. The reason it's medium, butter melts at quite a low point, so if you get it really high, you're going to burn your butter, and then it's going to spoil its taste and its texture. So it's only going to take about a minute, and whilst we're waiting for that, we'll work on our other ingredients. We've got the wonderful versatile banana, and I use these a lot in my sweet bakes because obviously they're really sweet, they're great texture for baking, and of course, as us athletes know, you've got your potassium and your magnesium in your bananas. Potassium is an electrolyte, as is magnesium, so it works very similarly to salt in the body. We lose it through sweat when we exercise, and we desperately need to replace it as soon as we've exercised. So as a post-recovery snack, this is superb. I'm using my old bananas. They're a week old. As I've said in this recipe, please try and use ripe bananas. It makes it so much easier to mash it up. And those of you that have extra bananas, just a top tip, soon as they've gone beyond the point that you want to bake with them or eat them, just take the skins off them and then put them in a Tupperware or a freeze bag or a Tupperware box. Cut them into about 5 pieces each banana and freeze them and use them in your smoothies. They're brilliant. You can actually then defrost them and use them in a banana bread or whatever you're doing, but don't throw them away. Okay, so 3 smallish bananas. Look how easy they mash. That is such a nice little job to do. Okay, so that's pretty much it done. Let me go and check on my butter now. Those of you cooking with me, just have a quick check of your butter. Make sure it's not burning. Okay, banana done. Okay, my butter is now done. So I give that a quick little stir through, and we're going to add the honey into the butter. Now honey or maple syrup, depending basically on your preference of flavour. I think obviously those of you that have tasted both will recognise maple syrup has a much stronger flavour, so if in doubt I would use the honey option. The reason we use honey and maple syrup over the sugar, well, if those of you familiar cooking brownies will recognise that brownies are renowned for using your body weight in sugar, so it makes it one of the most unhealthiest bakes you can possibly make. When we do something like my banana and chocolate squares, the honey is replacing, the bananas and the honey are replacing the sugar. Honey and maple syrup have more fructose than they do glucose, around 40 to 30% ratio. And fructose is actually sweeter than glucose, so we use less. And that's the case in any situation where you'd be using sugar. If you replace it with honey or with maple syrup, you can reduce the amount. So I would recommend for those of you, and I'm not a fan, but for those of you that do put sugar in your teas, your coffees, try replacing it today with half the amount of honey and just see how you get on. It really is, over the long term, brilliant substitution for you all. Okay, I think, let me just check, we're on the same amounts for our, 180 grams of honey or maple syrup straight into your butter. Okay, give that a little stir around, and then what we will do is add our bananas into this mix. Now if you've got children, boyfriends, husbands who like to assist you with the cooking, this is a brilliant recipe because it is really, really easy, and you've got all your wet ingredients in there. On my last bake, I think I was baking, was it my Thai curry that I did with you, and I think I was using these great big heavy cast iron saucepans, and so many people text or call to say, oh my God, you're having an arm workout. I'm using much lighter pans today. So there you go, that's that done. Let's break our eggs. Slightly bigger dish please to break your eggs into, because we're going to add the other ingredients into that. We're pretty much done, by the way. You know I like my quick recipes with you guys. So those of you who are cooking with me, hopefully you're keeping up with me. I've got 5 eggs to break now, so you've got some time. Okay, eggs, you know me, they've got to be free range. If you have chickens, wonderful. Free range eggs, benefits, they have a better diet. Protein from eggs is what we call a complete protein, so it's got all 9 essential amino acids. Obviously it's vegetarian friendly. Protein, brilliant for us athletes in terms of our recovery of muscle synthesis, helping with the regrowth of muscles, muscle tear after exercise. This is when we love our athletes to get their protein. So again, as a post-recovery snack, this is superb. Give them a quick whisk. Just whisk them up. Doesn't take 2 seconds. There's 5 eggs in this, which is a lot for a bake. Again, I'm looking at the moisture content. We like brownies to be really moist, and obviously I want these to have loads of protein. So it's a really, really good recipe from a protein position. Okay, quick whisk of them, and then we're going to add our dry ingredient. Now remember, we've carefully sieved our dry ingredients so we get a nice rise with our bake. So when we add it now and when we stir it, try not to beat out all the air for me. I'm going to show you my folding technique again. It's dead simple. Okay, so we're just going to add in the dry ingredient. If you're using, I've put options on my recipe cards, which I always do, and today's options are the addition of nuts and coffee. If you're adding in your walnuts or your preference of nuts, you can throw them in now. You can put them in at basically any point. Again, the reason we'd add them is down to preference in terms of flavour, or if you're wanting to add even more protein with the nuts, essential fats such as the omega-3s in walnuts, etc. Coffee is brilliant. It just kind of lifts the chocolatiness of this. You don't necessarily taste the coffee unless you add really, really strong coffee, but it will lift the flavour of the chocolate. So if you're real chocolate fiends out there, adding your coffee in actually makes it more chocolatey. So there's a little top tip for you. Okay, so I always use a rubber spatula, but use what you like. We're just going to fold in the flour and our butter, honey, mashed banana goodies, okay? Folding in. Do you remember the folding technique? It's what we call the figure of 8. Just literally lifting your mixture and just making sure that we fold till we've incorporated our dry ingredients. So we don't want to see any of the flour, any of the raw cocoa powder, okay? And that's just going to take a couple of seconds for you guys, and you get what I call a batter. So at this stage, it's exactly how you expect a brownie mixture to look. Really quite damp, really quite liquidy, but don't worry, because in your low oven, over 40 minutes, I'm going to show you one I've made earlier in just a minute. It's perfect. Mine's done. Okay, that is going to go in. Is Johnny Mellor cooking with us today? Johnny had a disaster when I did my muffins, and I'm not sure whether I actually mentioned when I was making my muffins. I'm sure for most of you, you'd assumed you did a muffin tray. Johnny did his muffins just in a normal tray, assuming the paper cake. You don't mind me telling them, do you, Johnny? It's a bit late now. But anyway, the end result was he ended up with a tray bake. So Johnny, today it is a tray bake, so you don't have to worry if you haven't yet bought yourself a muffin tray. So just a normal tray bake tray here. Just line it with your grease-proof paper. Make it go up a little bit at the edges, because as I say, there is a slight rise in these. And then just pour in your fabulous chocolate banana batter. It'll level itself because obviously, as I've said, it's quite liquidy. You know I don't like waste, so bear with me while I just scrape out my mixing bowl. Okay, give it a little smooth down into the corners. And that, like I say, is going to go into your 325, 180 gas mark full oven now. Because we're baking, as I say every week, it's the middle tray of your oven. I've said 40 minutes. I gave mine about 35 this morning, the ones I've done earlier. Do check after about half an hour. Get yourself a skewer, one of these, push it in. If it comes out clean, it's ready. You can also do the spring test on the top, but the skewer, remember as well, we're making brownies, so those of you who like them super, super squishy, you might want to take them out after about 35 minutes. Okay, let me put these in and get the ones that I made earlier for you. Right, so here we go, et voila. I'm going to take these out and slice them up now just to show you. What I would recommend with these, you can cut them up now and put them, some of them in the freezer so that you can just take them out, wrap them up in some tin foil, take them with you to training, take them with you to the race point, put them in the car. To be honest, these are dead transportable. The other thing is, if you're doing really long runs where some of you guys want small things to pop in your mouth halfway through your run, cut them really small, wrap them individually, and you can take them with you. So let me just give some of these a little, take a knife, and I can cut into these and show you the texture. I mean, I've put, what have I put, about 16 squares. I mean, to be honest, you'll probably get a bit more, just depending on how big you want your brownie squares to be. Okay, so how about that? That's what your guys are going to create, okay? Really nice consistency, really easy to take with you, really, really tasty. You've seen what I've used today in terms of ingredients. You can decide when you have these, they're pre, they're post. The difference being, if you're doing them with the pre, then please choose them, the refined version, so just plain flour. Post or any other time of the day, promise me you'll try an unrefined flour and just give me some feedback. You won't notice the difference in texture or in taste. I just want to make these little changes every time that we cook together so that at the end of a year, we've made huge improvements in our nutrition. Guys, it's wonderful to be back in the kitchen with you all. Please can you send me photographs of your brownies in the week, and there's the Running Bear socks for the winner as always. I'll put these on now and I'll photograph the ones that are coming out of the oven. Great to be back. I don't know what I'm cooking with you next week. I think I might try something savoury with you all. If anybody has any special requests, send them in. I'm happy to look at special requests, and maybe if any of you have got some favourite recipes you want me to give a go, let me know. It's lovely to be back. Thank you for joining me. Have a lovely weekend, and I'll catch up with you all next week. Take care.